Hello, it's Richard. I'm back having a go at these video Genie repairs. Where we last left it, I was working on this machine that had a faulty cassette deck. Or more precisely, the interface board there has a voltage regulator circuit here that's supposed to drive 9 volts for the cassette, but as soon as we energise the relays for the cassette, it drops down to 4 volts. And I've been looking at this one and measuring. This is a working one, and that works fine. The voltage regulator puts out 9 volts, just under, and it stays at that. So I've got the circuit diagram for the voltage regulator that I've copied out of the service manual, so I can annotate and so on. And I went to have a little think about this, and I think I've managed to work out what this is doing, and I've also searched on the net for voltage regulator circuits and found similar things. This is a power transistor, 16 volt rail trying to put out 9 volts, and so this is switching on and off the current. And then you've got this smaller transistor which seems to be like a feedback control transistor for that, using the forward voltage of the Zener, which is set at 8.2 volts. So basically, that if this goes above 8.2 volts, then this will conduct down to ground, which then allows you to turn off this power transistor. So it's in a kind of like bistable, kind of switching the two on and off depending on whether the Zener is conducting. And then you've got two pull-up resistors that are basically pulling up these to high, but then the Zener will pull that down to low. And that one's higher than that, presumably so that that one goes high before that one goes high. I did kind of just about get it clear in my head, but it was just like at the limits of being able to kind of fully understand it, because I'm coming to this completely fresh. And I assume the capacitor is just a smoothing capacitor on the output rail. So in the last video, I replaced the capacitor, and I replaced this smaller transistor, which was confusing my component tester over there, so it wasn't coming up as a transistor, which is why I was suspicious that maybe that was going to fix it, but it hasn't. I've tried to think through what kind of failure modes could be on all these components that would cause it to have the behaviour it does. And because if the power transistor just failed, you wouldn't get anything. If the resistors shorted or open circuit, then I think it would just not work. So I'm kind of suspicious maybe the Zener, because it's possible, because it's when the current gets higher, the whole thing fails. So it's possible that the Zener works fine on low current, but then stops conducting on high current or something like that. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what the failure modes are there. Sadly, I don't have a replacement for that, because I went into order spare parts for all of these, but the Zener wasn't listed correctly in the service manual parts list, so I wasn't quite sure what to get. So I haven't got one of those. I've got resistors out of my box. I ordered power transistors as well. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to try taking out the power transistor and the two resistors, testing them on my component tester, see if they seem within spec, put them back in, or put in replacements since I've got replacements, and reassemble and see what happens. I'm sceptical that's going to do anything, but we'll see. I'm suspicious about this Zener, and I've now looked it up. I can get a pack of 5 for 73p delivered tomorrow. So that's what I'd probably do if this doesn't work. And incidentally, in the last one, I checked the input line, and that wasn't dipping down. So when I was getting the 9 volts going down to 4 volts, this was still at about 15 volts, which suggests that the mains power supply is up to it. There's something in this circuit that's the problem. So yeah, going to have a go at disassembling and see what happens. Right, so I've got the power transistor out, and this is what the replacement that I've bought gives me on my component tester, a slightly broken component tester. If we put in the one that I've just taken out of there, test that, it's just coming out as a diode, which was what the other transistor I took out did. So let's put the this new one in, see if that makes any difference. I think we might be getting somewhere. I've reassembled this, just changed that power transistor, and so we're getting, well, bang on 9 volts there. And let's activate the cassette relay, and it's holding pretty steady. So I think it may have been that power transistor that was faulty. Now I need to connect up the cassette deck, see if that works as well. Progress. We all connected up, and the cassette is going round. And fast forward works, but rewind, it's really struggling. It is turning, but barely. So I think there's maybe some lubrication needed or something else. I'll have a look at that next. Before I start looking at the mechanicals of this, I decided I ought to just finish off the electronics that I've been doing on this. So I've resoldered the power supply for the RF modulator that I disconnected when I was trying to diagnose the power supply. I've also resoldered the connection to this add-on, this third-party mod, or home-brew mod, and replaced the Z80. So here we've got a brand new genuine Zilog Z80 from 2018. So that means this classic 1981 can go back in my Genie too. So let's put that all the way in, see if that works. Yep, so the new Zilog chip works. And the other thing that I just tried earlier, if I just put in a just some kind of random program and then try and save it, we will see that this is indeed a sound mod. So that's connected up to the cassette output, which means you can hear the program being saved, and also it will work with games and so on that use sound, because they just use the cassette interface. And the idea is you used to plug an amplifier into the cassette output, whereas this has just got an amplifier just wired directly in, which is quite cool. Right, let's onto the mechanical stuff. So I've been doing a bit of diagnostics on the mechanical side of this cassette deck. I think I've probably figured out what the problem is. So I've taken the top unit off here so we can see the mechanics, and there's the back side of it. So play works fine, and fast forward works fine, but rewind just grinds to a halt. Now we've got the, whenever you do anything, it takes these brakes off here. So if we put it into fast forward, it takes the brakes off here, and this spins freely. And the other interesting thing is if I put it into fast forward, so this wheel here, this one spins fast and can be pushed against this spindle or against this spindle. Or against this reversing wheel, then goes against this spindle, or in play mode this one spins slowly, so that gets pushed against there. So this is one that's going fast. So the question is that still going fast when it goes over here? Well, if you notice that the fast forward, it goes slightly further away. And if I put it in rewind mode but push that to move it up forward, so they both move, then it works fine. So that shows the reversing wheel and the spindle all fine. It's just that white one in the middle isn't spinning fast enough when it's in the rewind position. And then if we look on the back, then here we've got this belt that drives from the motor to this flywheel, and then to this rubber wheel here, which is the other side, that were the white spindle we were looking at. And so if I remember which is the right one, so in fast forward that goes fine, but then if it's down a little bit lower, it's pushing a bit lower down on the flywheel, and it's not going. But that's not moving. But if I put my finger on the motor spindle, that's still going fast. So I think it's just this, if you look at this band is just not very tight. So I think it's just it needs a new drive belt. It's as simple as that. But I wanted to rule out that it wasn't kind of something else jammed up. So the question is, what drive belt do we need? Well, turn to my trusty service manual to try and work it out. Here we go. Cassette board, part number, audio cassette recorder is a single part number. So basically, as far as they were concerned, this unit was not serviceable. They would just swap out the entire unit rather than repairing it, which is a little bit of a shame. I mean, other machines like Amstrad, CPC, and the Integrated Spectrum and so on, people are selling replacement drive belts for. But this one, it's a bit too niche. The Video Genie System 80, very niche. So I very much doubt anyone's selling them specifically for this. So I guess I've just got to take that out and try and measure it as best I can, given that it's stretched. So that might be quite hard. Actually, I can maybe take out one of the... Actually, I don't even know if the cassette deck's working in the other one. I haven't tested that one yet either. Yeah. But yeah, at least we know what it is. So maybe see if I can get another one of those. So that's a pretty good result for today. I was really quite depressed at the end of my last video that I hadn't been able to figure out what was wrong with that power supply for the cassette deck. And kind of analog electronics really isn't my thing, so that I was really stumped. So I'm really glad I managed to get to the bottom of that. It was that power transistor and probably the smaller control transistor as well, because that was also giving me dodgy readings in the last video. So yeah, made good progress, and I've also diagnosed the mechanical issues with the cassette deck. So now I need to hit the internet and see if I can get any replacement drive belts. I've just measured it. It's probably about 24-25 centimeters around as a best guess, because obviously it's stretched. But yeah, I have to see what's available, whether I can get like a whole variety, because I've got other cassette decks for my other computers, some of which work, some which don't. So yeah, having a whole variety of drive belts would be really good. I have to see what's out there. Thanks for watching. Watch out for the next video.